Welcome to Sew Very Easy. My name is Laura, and today I have a beautiful summer panel from Riley Blake. Now they do have the winter version, and it is beautiful. I love that border, and I'm going to use that summer panel in place of the winter panel, but I'm using the same design for that border. Change the fabrics a little bit. It's going to really make it look quite different. It's all the same pattern. I'm just changing the colors and that panel. The pattern I'm going to use is from Riley Blake, and the panel is very similar. This is their winter panel, but I'm going to use the summer panel. I'm going to use the same pattern, but I'm going to change the color. Where they have the red, I'm going to have this beautiful green. I'm going to do a soft white and this beautiful plaid. I do like to mark up my pattern to the new colors that I am going to use, and then I'm going to cut them. And I'm going to keep them in order. So this is A piece, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, and I. Of course, we can always make some labels or just keep them in order. So we need to get that fabric all cut and ready to go. We are going to need 22 of the border blocks and 4 corners. So let's lay out the fabrics that we're going to need for the 22 sides. So I'm going to use 22 of these G's. I'm going to take 4 out and put them aside. Those will be for the corner squares. I'm going to need G. I'm going to need D's, and those are going to get stitched onto the corner. I'm going to need A and some I's. And the I's are going to get stitched on corners. I'm also going to have I's in a centerpiece and some B's. The rest we can put aside. So we're going to be making 3 pieces, and we're going to put them together in rows. So let's start with this top piece. This G piece is a 3.5 inch square, and these little D's are 1.5 inches. And we're going to use a stitch and flip method. So we're going to be able to put the 1.5 inch on that corner, on both corners at the top, draw a line from corner to corner, and stitch on that line, and then flip these forward. So we're not changing the size, we're just adding corners. The next row, these are all 1.5 inch pieces, and we're going to need 22 strips that are sewn together. And then this bottom piece, we're going to do the same as this top piece. We're going to take those little 1.5 inch squares, place them on each side, draw a line from corner to corner, stitch on those lines, and then flip them back. So we're going to have 22 of each of these units. Once those corners are stitched on, we just need to pay attention on how those are going to be sewn together. What we're looking at is sort of this little tree shape, and we will end up with 22 of these pieces. We're going to add 2 sides. So we're going to have a left and a right side. Divide up your H's. So we have 22 for each side. We will have B and D on each of the corners. And then we're going to put the solid C at the top. So we just have to keep the B's in the corner and the D's in the top corner. Same thing, we're going to stitch and flip. We now have 22 center pieces and 22 left and right pieces. We're going to be able to put those together. And our directions do have the recommended ways to press our seam allowances. Once those are done, we're going to make 4 corners. We are going to need 4 of the G, 4 of that B, and 4 each of the corners of that D. We then will be able to put on our F and our E. Now that we have the main blocks done and the corner blocks, we are going to put these together to make 4 borders. 2 of the borders are going to need 5 blocks sewn together, and 2 are going to need 6 sewn together. So we'll end up with 4 long strips to start our borders. So I have 2 borders with 5 blocks and 2 borders with 6 blocks. The one with 6 are going to go on the side of the panel. The one with the 5 will go on the top and the bottom. Those ones are the ones we're going to put the cornerstones on. So put that border with the 6 blocks aside. Now we're going to add on the cornerstones. So I have 2 rows of 5, and I do want those greens to match up. So on the one side, the small one is going to be to the outside and the large one is going to match up, and that means those corners are going to match. And for the other side, I still have those green matching up, but this time I have the long one on the side and the short one on the top. We just need to make sure that those greens are going to match up. So I'm going to stitch those together and put that aside, and I get to start my panel. This panel does have a straight border all the way around the edge. So I do want to straighten this panel as best as I can so that the edges are squared up. I'm going to use the edge of this cutting mat, and I'm going to wrap that fabric right around the edge. I will be using the design right on that panel and put lots of clips on those 2 edges and clip it so that line is straight on 2 sides. I'm going to be able to do that for 2 edges. Then I'm going to have 2 other edges that I won't be able to roll over. So I can follow the lines underneath this mat, and I can see those lines and clamp them along one edge. I'm going to follow a line that I can see through on this cutting mat and clip. So it's just being clipped along that edge. If I can't clamp, I'm going to use rulers. I'm going to use one line on that ruler, and I'm going to pin these edges. So I have the straight edge of that ruler, and I'm going to put the pin right in the edge of that line and just flip it so that the ruler sits underneath. And when I do that, I'm going to start with this panel damp. So you can just spray damp it so the whole thing is damp. That dampness is going to allow you to stretch it a little bit, but if you have a little area that's high, I can pat it down. I can give it a little spray and just pat that little wrinkle down. So all of these edges are just going to be tapped down. Once this has been straightened with rulers and clips, I'm going to let it dry. Once this is dry, I'm going to be able to cut it out. The panel is going to need to be 35.5 inches by 42.5 inches. So I'm going to measure from line to line, and whatever that leftover is, I'm going to divide it up on each side. And you're going to be able to make the adjustment to fit your panel. We just need that finished size to be 35.5 inches by 42.5 inches. And it's right here in the pattern. We're going to start and sew the 5-piece border onto the 2 sides. And in my case, this green is going to be coming into that panel. Those tops and bottoms are going to match, and we can stitch 1/4 inch. With the 2 long sides put on, we now will be able to put the top and the bottom on. And the cornerstones are going to match right up. So this cornerstone will match up with that last row. And it's going to match up on both sides. So pin the top and the bottom on and stitch using 1/4 inch. That first border is put on. You can really see that little detail. We need one more border, and it is a border that's going to match this last piece. It is cut 1.5 inches. The side borders should be 52.5 inches, and the top and the bottom should be 47.5 inches. So let's cut those strips, put them on, and we are done. That was all there is to this quilt, was this 1-piece border. But it does add a lot of detail to this panel. With that last little border on, the quilt is done. It is 47 inches by 54 inches. That little border really is a sweet addition to this panel. Now, I did use the free pattern for the winter version, but they also have one for this summer one. So there are many different color alterations that you can do using this panel, regardless if you're doing the winter or the summer one. It's a great one to do. I'll put some links in the description so you can check out the patterns and the fabric. And as always, thank you for joining me today on Sew Very Easy. Feel free to subscribe. I'm on Facebook, Instagram. I have a newsletter. It's all free under Sew Very Easy. Thanks again for joining me. Bye for now.